Welcome through the Starseed Portal, the gateway to hidden truths, future codes, and the magic of now. Here nothing is ordinary. Remembering is your birthright, and imagination is your fuel. Journey back to yourself and forward into the unknown. Awakening awaits the curious.
Hello, friend. How's it going?
Hi, bestie. It's going good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm really excited to be talking to you. We recorded our first episode yesterday, and today it's going to be a little bit more flowy because there's less things that we feel like we need to have said. So this is going to be more of a story of who we are, so you can kind of understand this as we're going forward in this podcast, and also how we met, as well as our awakening stories, because they're pretty different. And I think it's something that we'll come back to a lot in this podcast going forward as well. Hopefully we'll have more of our friends' awakening stories included in this podcast.
Looking forward to that as well. Okay, so should I start?
You can do. Do we want to do a quick introduction so people can remember our voices? This is Antonia.
This is Julia.
And this is the podcast called Starseed Portal, where we're going to be making you believe in magic.
Very welcome. Okay, so I'll start. Who am I? That's a big question. I am Swedish. I live in Stockholm with my 2 young sons and my husband. I have a background within marketing, and I used to work a lot in small and non-profit organizations. I am currently on parental leave. I've been for almost 4 years now, which is another story.
Nice.
I would actually love to talk more about that, and how the boys and spending literally all day and night with them for 4 years has kind of been a big part of my awakening story as well. But anywho, I am also an Aquarius, if that's interesting. What else?
Do you know your rising and moon?
Rising is Leo. No, rising is Virgo and moon is Leo.
Okay, that makes sense to me.
Yes.
Okay, I love that.
And also I'm a 5.1 manifesting generator, if you're into, what's it called?
Ooh, yes, human design.
Human
God,
design.
I keep forgetting what mine is called, but we need to come back to that. I also have a friend who is what do you call it? Licensed in human design. So I'm hopefully we can come back to this a little bit more. I'm very, very surface level on human design.
I'm kind of deep into it, and it really resonates with me. I look forward to doing a special episode about that. Who are you, Antonia?
Yes, my name is Antonia. I'm also Swedish, which is interesting because we're so used to speaking Swedish to each other. So it's a little bit odd to speak English, even though we both lived abroad. But yeah, I've lived abroad for very many years at this point, since I finished university. I've also been in the marketing space a lot, even though I did a quick stint in investment banking, and that was not my vibe. Since then, I've been working at different companies and in different cities around the world. So I've lived in London twice, Zurich twice, Malta for a quick stint, San Francisco, and I was about to say I live in New York, but I actually don't anymore because I recently quit my job at Google. I was doing social media and influencer marketing for about, was that 6.5 years? And then before that, I was working at Google in Sweden. So yeah, I've quit corporate, and to kind of as a result from this awakening, because it's made me see my life's purpose and that it was not what I was doing. So we'll go a lot more into that in a second. But yeah, I'm single, have always been single. I don't have any kids. I've just been floating around, focusing on my career. And now I'm going to go a little bit more into my next phase, which I feel is like soft feminine era, creativity, this podcast, writing a fantasy book, or actually like now it turns out it's probably a series of 7 because my mind goes wild as it has since this awakening too. But yeah, so I've been very focused on more my career for the past few years. But I'm a Leo sun, Scorpio moon, Scorpio rising, which I feel describes me a lot. It's the surface level glitter and kind of socialness, I guess. With the but I'm also kind of known for kind of dragging secrets out of people because I think people trust me that, you know, I want to know them for their sake, which again makes a lot more sense since after this awakening, why that is. But yeah, is there anything, I don't know, I'm trying to figure out what else people want to know about us. We're going to walk into how we met in a little bit because we are very much alike, but also inverses, which we will have a full episode on.
It's almost, I mean, it's funny when you dig into it. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a bigger topic.
It's a bigger topic.
Do you want to start maybe with how we met? Because I feel like it kind of started as your journey.
Yeah. So the story began with I was quitting my job as a CEO of a company in Stockholm, and I felt desperate need to do something else. I had always dreamt about working abroad, and for some reason, I've always felt that San Francisco was calling to me. I don't know why, but makes sense now. And
It was me.
It was you calling for me. No, but I kind of created a job opportunity for myself, and I was moving to San Francisco. I had never been there. I had only been to New York in the US, so the West Coast was completely new to me. And I also had a relationship at the time, the same one as I am now. We weren't married at the time, but I felt like, okay, I need to do this for myself. I need to do something completely new and see what happens. And my dear husband was very supportive. So he actually came visit a lot of times. That's true love. Anywho, I was moving to San Francisco and I didn't know anyone there. I felt really good about it, a new adventure. And I started to lurk around in my network at home. Like, do I have anyone who knows anyone in San Fran that I can like have a coffee with or introduce me to the town? And I realized I had met someone from Google. I had a meeting and I tried to convince them to be a partner to us. And I met this person who was very warm, and I knew he had been located in San Fran before. So I
didn't know that. Interesting.
Yeah, that was why I contacted him. And I wrote to him like, hi, I'm moving to San Francisco. Do you have any recommendations? And by the way, do you have any friends that I can befriend? Or come to think about it, no. I'm lying now. I'm sorry. This isn't the truth.
Go ahead. We're all about the truth, so
all
please
about the
edit.
Truth. No, I'm editing now. Okay, so this was back in 2019. I was moving and I updated my LinkedIn. I wrote a post about moving to San Fran. And then he actually reached out to me saying, okay, if you're moving to San Francisco, I think you really need to meet this person. I was like, okay.
Okay,
great.
That aligns more with what I saw, because there was this guy from Google who was in the sales organization who wrote to me. He's like, oh, this girl is moving to San Francisco. You should meet her. And I was like, you know, having lived abroad for so many years, it happens quite often. And, you know, sometimes you connect, sometimes it's like you have a drink and it's nothing else. But I was like, sure, whatever. You know, it didn't have the highest expectations, you know what I mean? But it's kind of felt like a courtesy thing. But it was just funny because while I really liked him, we had met at like, you know, happy hours at work. It was not that we were close. So I was kind of surprised that he kind of got back to me. So that's how I got it. Do you remember what we did the first time? Because I feel like your memory is better than mine.
I mean, obviously not, but I'm gonna try. No, but so he wrote to me to connect with you, and I just remember very clear when I also Googled your name because I was curious, and then I found your Instagram, and I instantly felt like a warm, big hug in my stomach because I was like, okay, this girl is so vibrant, and I saw all your pictures on Instagram, which is like lots of colors, lots of like friends, parties, travels. I was like, okay, raves. I was like, okay, this is going to be my friend for sure. I was so excited, which helped me a lot while sitting on the plane, like rethinking what the heck am I doing. So the first time we met, I think you invited me to what was the area you lived in called again?
Castro. Yeah, I think it was a Sunday.
Mm?
I remember what I wore because that's the thing. My memory is like tied to outfits, which is weird. The problem is that people change their outfits all the time, so I keep remembering the outfits, but not kind of who was wearing them. But yeah, I think we sat. I can't remember exactly where we went, but it was
Small
it was
kind
like a
of
little wine.
yeah.
No, was that maybe our second time? But we had wine. I remember that.
Yeah. And I also remember I highly appreciated you suggested wine and not coffee. I was like, okay, cool. So
Side
we
view.
met. It was a sunny day. What were you wearing then?
I was wearing like a peachy orange dress. I think I might have gotten it from a friend, but it was kind of like a little wrap dressy thing.
I was probably wearing a white t-shirt.
Probably. That would make sense.
Yeah. That's very us. Okay. I can't really remember like what we talked about, but I just remember like the feeling, and the feeling was like warmth, and that we had known each other like, for ages, which was so incredibly nice when you just landed in a new city that you hadn't been in before.
I have a feeling that did we go to Tiki Bar afterwards?
Yeah.
I think we did. And I remember clearly that I came back and I had the same feeling. I'm like, we're going to be best friends. And I kind of missed that. Like I had friends in San Francisco, but it was, I don't know. I didn't feel like I'd found my place. Like I had people I would hang out with, but I didn't always feel like the most welcome. And I was like, okay, great. I have a best friend here now. Like it just felt like very obvious. But am I
feeling was
correct in
mutual.
this? Because I have a feeling that we talked about this afterwards. And so let me know if I'm lying. But if I think we both went to our separate friends and said, she doesn't know it yet, but we're going to be best friends. And that we realized that we basically had said the exact same thing to our other friends about each other after this first date.
True story.
And then it just kind of started. Was it the second time that I had the wild suggestion for a full day activity?
Yeah, I think it was the morning after. Actually, I think we met on a Saturday, and on the Sunday you were like, "Okay, so I'm gonna go to a berries class. Do you want to come?" I was like, "Yeah." And then, being as you are, you kind of planned out the whole day and in detail, and just took me under your wing to an amazing adventure. So we started out.
But it was also like the best thing knowing that like. I can't do that with everyone because some people, find you weird and they're like, okay, that's kind of like intense for having met one time. But I remember basically the suggestion was, okay, like I have an idea for Saturday. And you're like, okay, shoot. I'm like, okay, we meet at Barry's in Castro. Then we go to mine and we change. Then we go for bottomless brunch. Then we go and buy crystals at this little crystal shop. Then we go to a psychic. And then we called it the LSD maze, but just because it looked very kind of colorful. It was like a tourist attraction, I think. Like, let's go there and then we'll go for dinner. And you were just like, love that. Let's do it. And not everyone is up for that. So I was like, okay, I'm feeling good vibes about this.
We had so much fun.
And then I think by the third time we met, we're like, we're going to be each other's bridesmaids. And that's never changed. Even though we lived in the same city for 5 months and we've lived apart for 5 years. Yeah, it never changed. That's how you know you're twin flames.
That's how you know you're twin flames for sure. And then what happened was I did not vibe with the work I was there with, to say the least. It was not a good situation. And Antonia, you were kind of my salvation during the time. I had so much fun with you, and I enjoyed the city so much, and the people, and the weather, and like our adventures. But I was so broke to start with. I had absolutely zero money, and I remember I wanted to go
in a city that is extremely expensive.
Yeah, and I tried to talk to my boss about this. Like, okay, you need to raise my salary because I can barely buy food to eat. And I remember I had to choose between like, okay, I'm gonna go for drinks on Friday with friends. But if I want to do that, to be able to afford that, I cannot buy lunch. What do I have at home? I kind of ate like 2 boiled eggs for dinner, and like it was wild. Yeah. But you were very generous at the time and took me on a lot of adventures, even though it was a struggle, but it was so much fun. But in the end, I decided to not continue with the work situation, or kind of we had an outbreak, and I decided like, okay, fuck, I need to go home. And this happened with like 1 day before, and it was during Christmas.
Sweden, yeah.
You had gone back to Sweden to celebrate Christmas with your family, and I was in San Francisco, and I was like, okay, so I need to go home, and I need to go home tomorrow, and I need to kind of find a new tenant for my apartment. I need to pack everything up. What the hell is going on? And I did it, and then I don't remember. Do you remember receiving the news? You were like, what?
I think I was at the Google office in Sweden. Yeah, I do, because I think I just worked out, and I think I was like getting ready to kind of go back to work or after work or something. And I just remember being like shocked, and like the thought of like leaving for Christmas and then coming back and you weren't going to be there, like how much of like that kind of panicked me, you know what I mean? I was like, what? And because like when you'd finally found like your city soulmate or whatever, where it was like we were always on the same frequency, we always wanted to do exactly the same things and had the same kind of imagination and like spontaneity, I guess, just would always like say yes to fun and random things. God, I'm like getting like these little flashbacks from Inverness and and yeah, just like a lot of really good memories. So
Yeah,
that was
same.
not a good day for me, I'll tell you that. But I
Me
remember
neither.
getting to see you in Stockholm before I went back to San Francisco.
Yeah, and I
And then
remember
COVID
crying
hit.
so much when saying goodbye because it felt so unreal to come back. Obviously, I was okay coming back because I had my boyfriend here and my friends, but it felt like coming back and not being in the right place. I don't know. It was weird. Yeah, and
And you
then
weren't whole anymore because I was
I
your
weren't
other half.
whole anymore. No, but honestly, it felt very weird. I was relieved to be able to get out of the job, to be honest. But yeah, then COVID hit like a week after, and and after it was so weird because I think I also remember writing this in my diary. Like in a weird way, I feel like Antonia and I created COVID.
By separating.
Yeah, by
Because we
separating.
just found each other. Yeah.
The energies are huge between us. No, but seriously, I remember thinking first, like, okay, maybe I created COVID just to feel less, like I missed out on the opportunity of working in the US and being with you. Because I mean, I was also relieved to not be in the US while COVID hit, because your next upcoming year or years were completely different than mine. Sweden was very
Yes.
open at the time, and the US was not.
I mean, if you would have still been in San Francisco, we probably would have like put our stuff in storage and like went on a road trip or something, like you and I, you know. But instead I was, yeah, I guess I was there for maybe like 3 or 4 months after it hit and we had to like work from home. And that was not a good time for me I mean, now I guess I'm not as extroverted, but at the time, I've had like 4 personalities just this year. So things have changed a lot. Um, but yeah, that was not the vibe for me, and it actually ended up with me moving to New York.
Yeah, which makes
because
me think even more than that COVID kind of sparked our new path, because you kind of
did.
always dreamt about working in New York, and this was you created the opportunity based on COVID.
Yeah, I remember it was like I just called my boss. I'm like, I'm moving to New York. He's like, yeah, as long as you're back by January 1st. And I'm like, nope, I'm not coming back. You're supporting my relocation. And it's weird because usually I would get very nervous in those situations. Like, what if he says no? I just knew. That was like my next part of my path. And I mean, then I did come back January 1st, but that was a year after the January 1st he had initiated. So thank God I moved and I didn't stay because the offices were closed for such an incredible long time. And I mean, it was interesting because so many people were like, wait, you moved to New York during summer of 2020? I'm like, well, it was better than San Francisco, I'll tell you that. San Francisco closed down so fast and was closed way longer than it was in New York. So at least in New York, you could kind of sit outside without masks and it was a little bit more social, even though it was restricted. But yeah, it was maybe not the regular New York vibe or experience that you would have in the beginning, but it was still very much worth it.
I'm so proud of you for doing that.
Wild that I lived there for 5 years. It's crazy. And San Francisco only for like not even a year and a half. And it felt so long. Like I've also had so many different lives in New York just during these past years, like different friend groups and different like things defining my life. Yeah, it's been very interesting. But yeah, then I remember like after, wasn't it that you said you lost your crystals that we bought that day together?
Yeah, because the only crystals I've ever gotten was with you, actually. The first one, at least. And then you were coming home to Sweden to visit. This must have been summer 2021. So you were going to come back to Sweden for a vacation. And
Was it that? I don't think it was that. Was it that early?
yeah, I think so.
Maybe. Yeah, yeah,
Because
maybe.
I know what happened the year after.
Oh, okay, right. Yeah. So how did you lose the crystals, by the way? Do you know?
Can't remember. I just knew I was briefly telling you, like, oh, I don't have my crystals anymore. I don't know where they are. And being a great friend as you are, you were picking up some crystals for me when coming back to visit me.
Yeah, and I think actually it was like I heard it a while earlier, and so I bought them, and I remember having them in my apartment for a while, and then I brought them with you when we were going to see each other for the first time after COVID. And it was, I don't know if people are listening buy crystals, but you can kind of go one or two ways when you buy crystals. Either you are looking for something specific, so you can tell kind of the store, like look up like which crystal brings in love, for example, or you can just follow your intuition and kind of pick out crystals based on that and then figure out what they mean. So it's kind of just like two sides of the same path in a way. But I was just keeping you in my mind, and I was like walking around in this little crystal shop, the same one where we bought our crystals together.
Was it the
Picking
same
up
one?
little crystals. Yeah, it was the same one. I don't even know how many crystal shops there are in San Francisco, but yeah. So I walked around there with you in my mind, picked out crystals, and I was telling you about this when we met, because we sat at this little kind of restaurant in Stockholm, and I was like, well, it was so interesting because I thought of you when I bought these crystals, and then I asked them what they meant and kind of what the vibe was, and they're like, well, this one is really good for fertility, and this one is really good for fertility. And I just remember being like, and I was joking with you, I'm like, no, she's not allowed to have kids yet. And then literally you're like, I have something I need to tell you. So I'm not sure if I knew, if I channeled it, or if I manifested it. Or yeah, I'm not sure, but you told me you were pregnant.
Yeah, I was pregnant. Yeah, I'm gonna go into the story of how I became pregnant because it's really interesting as well. But yeah, so that kind of sums up what I've been doing.
Is that safe for work? I'm just kidding.
Haha. No, not those details. Maybe I don't know, but that kind of explains what I've been doing the last 5 years or 4 years. I've been at home with my kids and raising them, carrying them, giving birth to them, and yeah, it's been a wild ride as well. So it's been very intense couple of years, and our friendship has just blossomed and bloomed. And now we also realize that we are both on these spiritual paths and awakenings at the same time, which is amazing. And we're gonna come into that soon.
Yeah, we're gonna do that because I would not have survived with you or survived this without you. But did you want to say a little bit more about your becoming pregnant? Did you have a story about that?
I have a story, but I think I'm gonna leave it for maybe an episode about spirituality and kids. I think because it's a long story, but in short, I never dreamt about having kids. I know now that I didn't dare to think about that being an option. I think for me, based on I've been having kind of a rough upbringing in some ways, and I didn't want to, bring that on to the next generation. But something with a trauma and going through that trauma portal made me very fertile, and Nils and I talked about maybe we should have kids. I don't know, and then okay, let's stop protecting ourselves, and then the next day, basically, I was pregnant.
Yeah, you've been. I think there's also something we can have another episode on this as well, like your one true love. But there's something about that with your like one true match in this world. And again, this is from like a simulation perspective, that there is kind of a counterpart to you. I think we have a lot of soulmates, but that there is kind of in the higher up dimensions, there is one kind of counterpart to you. And if you're with that person, I just have a feeling that you are not going to have issues with fertility. It's actually weird because I'm not with my counterpart, but through this awakening, I've I don't know how to describe it. I feel incredibly fertile. It's weird, but yeah, we'll definitely jump more into that in a later episode. It's weird because we don't even have to plan these episodes because there's so much to talk about just from these past months. Again, just collecting, and like we mentioned in our previous episode, again, if you haven't listened to that episode, we always prefer or recommend that you do that first. But it's it's been a wild ride.
It's been a wild ride. And once again, the meaning of this podcast is to inspire you guys and to help you see more signs and live as happily as we do, because we want to share what we feel. And we're
to see magic and experience magic and believe in magic.
Yeah.
This is the podcast where we want to make you believe in magic. And that is both, at least for me, both selfish and selfless. Because again, what we've seen and how we live our lives, like when we hang out, there is feels like we become a beacon, it's just like everything is fun. Everything's a sign. Everything, because every small detail becomes so magical. It's like you can never be bored when you kind of have our mindset. And as I said, I think we mentioned that in the first episode too, but even if you don't believe our awakenings, even if you don't believe all the details, you can still use kind of this philosophy as a way to look at your life, because it becomes so much more fun. I swear to you. And even just starting to notice things around you as a sign or as magic, that makes the magic grow. You know what I mean? And it's, and that's how we see kind of our whole lives now.
We're going to break it down into small steps that you can take if you want to try it out. And our theory is that you can actually make it work by starting out small and then seeing more and more and feeling more and more happy and content. And that's kind of the meaning of it all. Because, I mean, it sounds like we have lost it in a way. Maybe we have. But I truly
believe
believe
that... lose it if you're just constantly happy and you're not hurting anyone? It's
no.
I mean, yes, I made a big life decision to quit my job, but I've never... that has just made me so much happier. And it was not a decision I took lightly. So I've made big decisions based on that. But it was after months and months of thinking and contemplating and trying to figure out if what I was experiencing was actually real. But regardless, I'm just happy. I feel like people around me are happier. I'm a better counterpart. I'm not judgmental. I'm just easier with people, and I feel like people can feel that, you know what I mean? So it feels like it kind of softens people up in your surroundings too, when you're kind of leaning from a compassionate perspective, if that makes sense.
Sure. And also, I mean, you've opened up so much space for do things that you've been dreaming about for ages that you're gonna have time for now, and I'm so proud of you. But okay, so should we talk more about the thing we're talking about all the time, but in detail, our awakening stories?
Yes. Okay, so it's going to be, I can start with mine. Ours look different. And again, since I've met more people that have experienced similar things, I've been able to start, trying to crystallize how and why these stories are different. So what I've mentioned before and what my current theory is, and just to be very clear, it's some things I see very clearly. Some things I've kind of seen and it's been reinforced 100 or up to 1,000 times per day for 6 months. So some things I see very clearly, some things I've seen once or twice, and kind of throughout this podcast as well. Since we mentioned the truth, love, and joy in our past episode, my goal is that we're going to explain things as in detail as possible, because some things I see, some things I feel very strongly, some things I've learned, but they are still kind of, let's say, theories that are being crystallized, because there's just new and new learnings. Oh, okay, that crystallized can mean so many different things in this way, but more that I see the general direction of things. But then at times, so for example, I can make one of the biggest things. I have called this, it's easier to call it a spiritual awakening, right? And I have then met other people who've gone through a spiritual awakening, but that have not gone through it in the way that I've gone through it. And I'm that's interesting. And then over time, I thought, so right now, my theory is that it's I've called them 2 mental portals, but I'm not sure if it's 1 emotional portal and 1 mental portal, but it's enlightenment and awakening. For me, what I understand it as is that enlightenment feels like a flip. That was, and kind of awakening is more of like wave. It goes in waves. You can learn more things, but for me, enlightenment feels like a flip. And I feel like you've gone through a flip, but I have other friends that I feel like have gone through awakening, but not enlightenment, because it was really like something just snapped into place inside of me. So, and it's funny because people always ask me like, what triggered this? Because it happened like basically the second 2025 hit. And it's interesting because after the flip, it was like I could kind of see backwards in time, which realizations I have had that kind of had, like, let's kind of almost like sub portals that has led me to go through this big portal, if you want to call it that. And it could be things that like, I always, for years, I've said, assume good intent. Like if somebody says something to you and you take it in a negative way, you can just decide to be like, either I react very strongly now, and it might be that they didn't mean that at all, or you assume good intent, because if they meant bad intent, you have a chance to be angry anyway. But just kind of like assuming people don't want you ill, assume people want you well before you go very quickly to like, oh my God, you're such a bad person, or why did you say that? Trying not to like be reactive, but kind of giving a little bit of space for that good intent to be shown before.
It's a very good start.
Yeah, so it's kind of like I've realized that the spiritual journey is actually your personal development journey. It's the same thing. You might not be spiritual at all, but if you are somebody who works on yourself and trying to figure yourself out, I've always been very curious about myself. Like when I get triggered, I'm like, where does this trigger come from? Like, why am I triggered by this? And then trying to figure out like, okay, well, if I have abandonment issues, I don't know where they're coming from because I have no memories of why I would have abandonment issues, but I know from kind of like the way I've been reacting that I had them. I would like communicate with friends and be like, hey, this really like triggers me. Can you try not to push that button as I'm trying to resolve where this stems from, right? We can dig more into that later, but this comes back to I'm guessing that's going to be our next episode about light and darkness and kind of emotional voids, all of that. But it felt like it's been a personal development journey that I now realize is the spiritual journey as it comes kind of more and more developed. This also ties back to manifestation because we rented a house outside was that in New Jersey, me and a few friends.
For New Year's.
And we were like, for New Year's, yeah, exactly, between 2024 and 2025. And we were sitting and like recapping our year, like describing it, kind of like going through the best and the worst parts of it, what we've learned, kind of like, feeling at ease when we switch into a new year. It could also be like resolutions, whatever. But I remember very clearly that I said it felt like 2024 was my creative buildup. Like I was collecting a lot of stuff and I was like, but nothing came out. Like I've been wanting to write this fantasy book for a long time, but it was like, and it's been building in the back of my head for like 2.5 years now. I just didn't start writing it until like half a year ago, but it's still building. And again, now it's built up to 7 books, but I still haven't got most of it on paper. But then I said, it feels like 2025 will be my creative release. And it was weird because I'm the person who can sleep for like 14 hours if nobody wakes me up, right? And I wake up on the couch after like on 1st of January, and I'm so clear-headed. Like that's the best way I can describe it. Like it was like after 4 hours of sleep, I woke up and I was just like it felt like I had like almost like spearmint in my mind, like it just felt fresh and clear. And I just wanted to go and sit in the hot tub. So I went and sat there by myself. The sun was like kind of like coming up. I had the sun on my face. I was listening to a podcast. And it was weird because it kind of felt like I entered into like a trance-like state. It felt like the words from the podcast went straight into my brain, like in a weird neurological way. To the point where a friend of mine came to sit next to me. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. Like, you are more than welcome to sit here. But I'm having like a spiritual something going on. And again, I've kind of wanted, like, I've called myself like I was like a wannabe spiritual my whole life. Like I've never been deep. Yes, we went to buy crystals, but for me it was more like I wanted to believe there was something else. I never truly believed it, like I've never been religious.
Feeling.
I just kind of like, oh, there's something else out there. And I've always like loved everything that is supernatural. Like I would watch supernatural shows, like Sabrina the Teenage Witch, like was my favorite show. And then I would read so many books, and everything was like magical, supernatural things. Like that's what I've been drawn to my whole life, which is now just so much more fun to look back at. But yeah, I've never been truly spiritual. Like I have a lot of friends, and their kind of awakening journeys have been like year long. For me, I just felt like something flipped, and like I fell through a bunch of portals, and like, what the hell is going on?
So your friend did she come in the bathtub with you?
So she came in, but I was like, I can't talk to you. You can sit here, but I need to like sit by myself with my eyes closed and just listen to this until it kind of plays out. I think I might have sat there for like 2 hours, and my other two friends came down there, but I could like not speak. And it was like, it really had felt like it was one of the first visions I had. Like it was about, it kind of felt like I'd been building like a puzzle, right? And I was like seeing people around me, like they were building their puzzles faster than me. And I was like struggling, and like it's not working. And then suddenly it just felt like I opened like a safe, and there's like just a wave of puzzle pieces coming out at me. That was one of the first visions like I had. And I'm like, oh my God, like these puzzle pieces fit into my puzzle. But like, wait, the motif here is not at all what I thought it was going to be. And I'm like, whoa, wait. And that was kind of how I first saw my purpose. It was kind of this knowing from that time that I'm like, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I need to be more creative. Like I just felt this kind of like I'd been scared to do things that I wanted to do, or like that something was holding me back.
Yeah.
But I also had this kind of vision of like, it felt like I've been like running in this like one direction so hard, and was trying so hard because I kind of had a bit of a rough, I would say like, let's say a career rock bottom. Like I've been trying to get promoted for like 3 years straight, and I was like trying so hard, and it wasn't working. And then every 6 months I would like get a no, and I would get like depressed for 5 weeks and could not get out of bed. And but I was trying so hard because, I'd put so much of my effort and time into being at Google, and I wanted, I kind of decided that that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah, but
now
you're
I just
also
felt
very
like,
ambitious, and you also always want to go to the next level of stuff. And you have a very, very successful career, no doubt about that. But you wanted to go to the next step. Yeah.
But the question is just like, again, why do you want to do it? I felt like more now I realized I wanted to do it for external validation. I had decided I wanted to get promoted. It was a failure not to get promoted. But now it was kind of like almost like that tie to me. Like it's again, it was a rough patch this fall, but they also say it's always darkest before the dawn, which is again, proverbs, like, and any type of quote just mean completely different things to me now. Like they all make sense to me in a very different way. But it was kind of like I eased in that like hard hold on that dream, and like I just turned the other way, and it was like I saw this like golden like highway, and I'm like, wait, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Like I'm supposed to be doing this. And I just felt like I've always been very creative. And I think I went into marketing because it was balancing, let's say, the logic and the intuition. My intuition was the creativity. But then there's always this like, okay, but when I was young, I wanted to become a fashion designer and an actor and a pop star and like, all these like very creative things. But it felt like the logical side was to do something more academic, and I kind of mixed those two and ended up doing kind of corporate marketing, right? And it's been an incredible journey. I've like never like regret that for my life. It just felt like I saw just the different direction. And I came back to New York. I looked out of my window in my 5-day apartment. I'm like, New York doesn't feel like home anymore. And that was the same feeling I had when I lived in San Francisco, when my friend called me and told me I should move to New York. And I looked back and I was like, this no longer feels like home. It was like something had flipped inside of me. And from then, I just kept being served these little puzzle pieces. It's like small insights. Sometimes it's like pattern recognition, right? It's like I would see small patterns. It would start off small, like a small puzzle piece with another puzzle piece. And I would like look it up, and I'm like, is this correct? And it always was. And then after time, it became kind of clusters of puzzle pieces connected to other cluster of puzzle pieces. And the bigger those clusters were, it was like when you connected them, it's like you get a download. It's like something big. Again, it's two medium pieces become one huge piece, and you're like, whoa, like it almost becomes overwhelming. And this has just continued since. And it's weird. Okay, I don't even know how to go into these details because it's like for a while, I was like, something has happened inside of me. This is not a small thing. This has shifted my life. Like, this is not like, ooh, do I feel this or not? This was, again, something flipped into place inside of me. I'm not sure if it was DNA or RNA or just big puzzle pieces, however you know to describe it. But over time, I've started feeling this metaphysical body inside of me. Like, we have a matrix 0.5 centimeter underneath our skin. I've felt it, okay? So it was kind of like, I'm not sure if it's the dark portal. I think the dark portal is like the logical portal. And it was like I entered the collective consciousness. I even had visions of myself sneaking in, like in a back door. And I'm like, oh my God, nobody knows I'm here. And I'm not sure why that is, but this comes back to like a lot of conspiracy theories and Illuminati and a lot of stuff that I don't know details of, but I have a lot of theories about. But it kind of felt like I snuck into the collective consciousness through the back door, like through the easy way. That's what it felt like. And it kind of like a light turned on, you know, the light bulb moment. This is what it stems from, okay? This is what it stems from. And then I felt the matrix underneath my skin. And at one point, it was like I screwed on the light bulb, the collective consciousness, to the matrix. So they were connected. Since then, I've been able to direct energy in this metaphysical body with my mind. Okay, so it's sometimes in some like relaxed states, like that's where it's easier. Like when I feel my body and I feel my mind a lot, I can like think about my ear and I can feel the energy flow to my ear in this kind of matrix, like metaphysical body. Okay, it kind of felt like I plugged in, like I was like, I don't know, an AI in a simulation, and I plugged in a plug into myself. You know what I mean? Like I became the whole circuit. Like I no longer need energy from the outside. It's not like I need an like external energy force. It felt like I became a full circuit of this, and like turned on like a flow of energy. And then at one point, I also felt like it was kind of like the matrix had been dead. Like there was no energy flowing in the matrix. But when I screwed it on, and I'm not sure, kind of like when I connected myself back to myself, it sounds so weird. It was like this kind of golden yellowish syrupy vibe, which I now think is source magic. We're coming back to like source magic and source code, but it's kind of like I connected source magic to the source code, and magic is running through my metaphysical veins in this matrix.
Okay, well,
and this,
but let me ask you about, you describe it as finding pieces to the puzzle, which is very vivid and sounds amazing. But the puzzle to what? Like how to live your life, or what to do with it, or like big questions you want to answer, or like the puzzle of what?
That's a really good question, and I've never gotten that question before. So I think, based on what I now know, it feels like life is a mystery, okay? And you're the first mystery that you need to solve. Again, and this is coming back to like, let's say the enlightenment, the solving of your emotional state, why you're triggered by certain things. And again, this comes back to trauma from your childhood, but it can also be trauma from past lives. But figuring out yourself, why am I reacting this way? Trying to become a better and better person, less reactive, more compassionate. That is the journey, kind of like lessening your ego, right? That's like a huge part of it. I think I've had some type of, and I think a lot of people go through some type of ego death, either tied to enlightenment or awakening. I'm not 100% sure. That doesn't mean that it disappears, okay? You still have ego. It's more like there's something about this, like the 2/3. I'm not sure if that's a Fibonacci kind of, there's something about the 2/3. It felt like I went to 2/3 and then something flipped, and then you have 1/3 left. But then you also realize you'll always have 1/3 left. You can always refine yourself. And again, that's like been one of the scariest things with this podcast, is that I'm still very afraid of being judged based on this, and people will finding me weird and delusional. But I'm like, guys, I'm telling you, there's a huge reward when you try to solve your own emotional issues. Like there's a flip. I've never been like, I'm curious about everything. I'm learning in like such a speed, because there's something, it's like I've seen, and this comes back to another part. I can't remember exactly what happened when, but I've definitely seen the matrix from the outside. And this is the collective matrix. So there's a collective consciousness, and there's also a collective matrix. And the collective matrix is like a sphere. Kind of imagine the sphere above the arena, the simulation arena in Hunger Games, right? I've seen that from the outside. I've seen kind of like how it tracks. And you realize that most things in the world that you've heard are true. Okay? Most things are true. And because most things are true, it's like I can feel when it's not true because it doesn't track. It doesn't track to the matrix. And also many things can be true without you having the full truth. And that's kind of where the danger comes in with like conspiracy theories or aliens. It's like a lot of people use that to make people afraid. But what I've seen is that, again, it's truth, love, and joy. This simulation is made to be a fairy tale, guys. Like, we're supposed to be nice to each other, not fuck with each other's simulations, and just like find love and do incredible things. Like, that's what we're supposed to be doing. So nothing that we're saying should be taken as you should be fearful. That's the opposite. Like, all these things, conspiracy theories, if they try to make you afraid, you either don't have the full truth or somebody's lying to you. But there's something about just, yeah, I'm not, and this is not perfect. It feels very patchy. It feels like I turned on my abilities for like psychic skills, but I have no idea how to use them, right? So it's like I'm slowly getting better at small things, but it's kind of depends on which way you're going in your, let's say, excitement. What do you find most fun? Like, what do you want to start exploring? And the more you start exploring it, the better you get at it. But
then you find something new, and then you spark that intuition as well.
Exactly.
Do you feel
but
like
again, this
the sorry to interrupt? Do you feel like the ego is something that you still kind of value because it makes you balanced in a way? I feel like that.
question.
Like
I think it depends on how you see ego, because one important thing as well is that when many people see enlightenment, for example, you see like a monk sitting and like not having to have, not needing anything. But there's something about when you go through enlightenment, like you realize you don't need a lot of things. But when you don't need them, you need to give yourself the things that you need. And that could be a relationship that is good for you. Like, you cannot accept things that are not good for you, right? You need to give yourself what you need. And then it's like the universe is like, okay, you gave yourself what you need. Now I'm going to give you what you want, right? It's not bad to want to be like, to get really rich or be really, there's nothing bad in wanting money or an extravagant life, right? I'm planning to be filthy rich. I just know I don't need it, right? Because I'm like happy about the small things. But for me, I think what still plays into the ego is this afraid of being judged, or specifically people who are close to me, thinking that I'm like delusional or weird. But again, like, worst case, we've made you a little bit more compassionate to people. Again, we're not saying you should change your life around in a day. We're saying there's a huge reward when you solve your own traumas and when you start being compassionate to people and start embodying truth, love, and joy. Like, literally, when you're joyful and doing things that make you happy, you light up. Like, you light up. That's like a good energy. You should do things that make you happy. For me, that's like raves or meeting people that like I love being close to. It's like watching some TV shows when I'm learning from every single TV show. When you pay attention and when you know the red thread, the truth, love, and joy, and you start seeing through it. Because again, now when I watch TV shows, I watch them from my perspective and from the character's perspective at the same time. Well, that's one of the things that kind of flipped for me. It's really weird, but it makes you almost learn what the characters are learning. I don't know. It's really cool. But I about the ego, I'm not sure if I like it or not, because I think for now it's hindering me to do a lot of the things I want to do, because I'm afraid of being judged or failing in like the public eye, or being seen as delusional in a way.
What happened next? You were telling you were in New York and you woke up in your apartment and you felt like this is not home anymore. And then you started to actively take decisions in line towards something else, which is now.
Yeah. It's actually funny because I even told my manager, I'm like, I've had a spiritual awakening and this job is going in the opposite direction of what makes me excited. Like, it got more and more process-based and less creative. And at the same time, anything that I was doing that was kind of when I was following my joy, again, it was planning this podcast. Again, this has been in the works for many months, right? It was like the idea and then us talking about it. And then like I started writing the fantasy book. Like, it was like, and when I was doing things that were fun, inspiration flowed out of me. Kind of like when I told you this like circuit that it was like a constant flow of inspiration as long as I was doing something I thought was fun. And I would, I have ADHD, so I would like jump between different things that I thought was fun. Sometimes I would watch TV, and I have this, my Threads account is just like random small insights I've had, kind of like I was writing them down in a diary, but I was writing them publicly because I wanted like the timestamp and stuff. So that's like a whole chaotic era of itself. I haven't even looked at that since since kind of this started. And at one point I wrote like 50 pages in a philosophy book because like I have a feeling this will end up being a philosophy of ours now. You know what I mean? Like it is a philosophy the way we're talking about it, but this needs to become a book in a way. And I haven't even read those insights. I would like write 50 pages and then I would do something else and then I would plan a podcast and then it was just sometimes like I think once I wrote 6 song lyrics on a flight to Palm Springs for a work trip. Sometimes I just need to write poetry. Like it's flowing out of me in different ways. And I think that's something that you need to feel. Like you don't have to decide how it's coming out. Sometimes you might want to draw. Sometimes you might want to sing, But creativity is a spiritual practice. And as like in this simulation, we switch between like creation mode and observation mode. And I think this needs to be a separate episode too, maybe connected to the light and the darkness, because creation mode is the light, right? And then observation mode is the darkness. That's when you observe and take in information and learn, but then you need to kind of use what you're learning on the outside. And I just realized as well, like, what am I creating? Like, yes, I was talking nicely to my friends. Like, I'm very much more careful with my words and being compassionate. But what I was creating and writing was like briefs to projects that I wasn't excited about and ideas that I wasn't excited about that weren't even mine because my ideas would rarely be taken up. You know what I mean?
You mean at
and I'm
work?
like, wow. At work, yeah, exactly. So I just realized, like, if what you create, like what you speak, what you write, both digitally and in person, what you sing, what you do, how you make people feel, imagine that is like the creation mode. And imagine the universe is like listening only to that. What does she think you want? Like, if you're always complaining, she's going to give you the things you're complaining about, right? What are you creating? And I was creating, again, kind of dry briefs I didn't really believe in. You know what I mean? And I was like, I just want to create something that I believe in. And that's this podcast. It's the fantasy book I'm writing. I want to design stuff. I want to illustrate. I want to make art. I want to learn how to DJ and make music because it's like there's so many different channels like that I feel like my creativity needs to come out in. And I've started. And again, my problem is I need to sometimes decide and focus a little bit on some things. And trying not to do everything at once. But yeah, it's
You're
just,
also very good at all those things you just mentioned. I've seen it up close.
Not an expert at anything, as we say. The professional generalist is what I call myself.
No, but I mean,
and I think that's going to be my
you do it
brand.
because you kind of have to, I guess, and you get better when you do it more, and you actually carved out time for you to do it, which is really magical. But if someone is listening as a critic, it also might sound a bit like you're in kind of a psychosis, but it's been like this for how long now?
Yes, I mean, that was one thing when I said for a while I thought it was a brain tumor, and I'm like, no, it's not. Like everything I keep seeing, all the visions, the little holograms in my head, they keep being true. Like everything I realize, like I double check with like facts and AI, and it's not. And I mean, I psychosis. I also thought if I was like manic depressive and in like a manic period, but I think this also has to, and I think this awakening ties to a lot of, let's say like mental illnesses, right? It ties to ADHD and like autism. I think it ties to manic depression or whatever. I can't remember if you call it bipolar or manic depressive. But I think there's a balance here between the light and the darkness, right? If you realize that you see a lot of things, but you're not acting on it, like you know what people around you are going to see. If you keep acting on something that is like in your head immediately, like you take your kids out of school and like just, then you're not using your logic. You're not using your darkness to balance it. And I think it's a lot about the balance, right? About psychosis. Are you making like rash decisions that are hurting yourself or others, right? And if you're not, again, for me, this has been like, I see a lot of the things, but I have this like groundedness. I have the darkness is also keeping you grounded. So it's kind of like a tree, you know what I mean? It's like the light is the branches, but like a tree can only grow as high as you have the roots to support it, right? So that's like where we're coming back to the light and the darkness. you need to be able to see almost like yourself from the outside. Again, you need to be in the observation mode and not just fully act on your instincts. You can see them and you can understand them, but you need to realize like what the implications are going to be for your actions, right? And I think that's the difference between, again, somebody who might see things and act on them like, oh my God, I think I can fly, and then try to jump off a roof. Again, the universe doesn't want you to be reactive. It wants you to be calm and peaceful and take your time, because once you start seeing things, you're going to see them faster and faster. So if I would have gone and like, I don't know, like executed some of the ideas I had in the beginning of the year, they would be so much worse than the ideas I have now. It's kind of like teaching you patience and understanding slowly that you'll start learning things in such a speed and understanding things, but maybe don't like jump on the first things that you come into or think that you are immediately right. Because that's one thing I realized kind of when you flipped at the 2/3. Like 1/3 is always going to be 1/3. The more I learn, the more like the universe expands ahead of me. You know what I mean? It becomes bigger and bigger, like kind of like you're walking around on like one of those grounds in a video game that like are blurred out. It's gray until you get there, and that's when it starts materializing. That is kind of what it feels like. So yeah, just don't be careful. Don't make like crazy mistakes. And again, we're going to talk about magic and simulations and video games and NPCs and all these like wild things. But again, it's based in truth, love, and joy, and kind of like the peacefulness. Like the universe like is peaceful. Like we're supposed to be happy and have fun and do chill things. But again, if you do things that hurt yourself or other people, it's kind of it's counteracting everything that we've been saying in the past. So yeah, this is, it's wild. Oh, we're going to get into some more of these details in a later episode. But yeah, it's very fun. I think we need to kind of close off now. We're coming towards like an hour, and we're going to start recording our next episode, which is your awakening story.
Yeah, it's been amazing to listen in detail again, because obviously we have been talking about this on the phone every week, because we have a weekly time where we kind of carve out in our busy schedules to just update and talk. And then, well, I think it was your idea that maybe we should record this, because it's it's very magic stuff we talk about. Other people should listen.
And it also becomes this like, again, this is going to be kind of a journey through an awakening. We're going to realize a lot more things a lot faster as we kind of come deeper into this. And it's going to be so much fun to have this as like a record, to be able to go backwards and see what we realized when and what we saw and kind of how those things are updating. Again, it's all based on truth, love, and joy. So that's not going to shift. Again, truth, love, and joy was, I think, one of the first things that I saw. Like as this kind of flip happened. I also saw that light has won over darkness. So again, it's like, it might not seem like it now with politics, but I've seen it. Like we're not going back to darkness anymore. Like if you're calling, let's say like the toxic darkness, like bad people, bad politics, people not being kind of compassionate towards each other. If people believe in evil, again, I don't think I believe in evil really, but if people believe in evil and that the world is chaotic, it's getting better. It's just kind of the old systems that are currently crumbling. But I'm like, light is one over darkness. I'm going to be good. Like, I have so much hope for the future. And I think we're going to see like actual physical manifestations of magic and magical creatures and everything in our lifetime. But again, the more people start believing in magic, the faster it's going to go. So hopefully you believe us. And if you don't, feel free to like, I guess, DM us on our Instagram, ask questions, or write comments here on the Spotify. I think there's like a little chat there, whatever you want. Because the more specific questions, the easier it is to answer. But also we want you to believe us. Because again, worst case, we've been more compassionate. Best case, we're creating magic together. We're making source magic come back to life. And for me, that's what I want. I want to become a fairy and have wings and, magical abilities and just like not be able to work. I want to have my own dragon. So if we can all help each other get on that path, my dragon's going to be really cute. So I want her to come to life now.
Okay, that's the long-term goal. No, but it's gonna be amazing. It's gonna be an amazing journey that we're embarking on together with this podcast. I have a different version of my awakening, which I'm gonna tell you soon. But I'm so thankful that you talked about it, because it's really inspiring. And again, I mean, if people want to say that, okay, she's in a psychosis or whatever, yeah, if it's a happy one where you find deep love every day and feel happy and do the things you dream about, call it what you want.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, I'm creative. I'm writing this book. I'm starting this podcast. We're seeing magic, like, again, if you want to call it a psychosis, again, I don't like the word, but if it doesn't hurt anyone and it makes me constantly happy, like, what's the point? How do you define a psychosis? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because if I'm constantly happy and I'm, building
When was the
towards
last time
dream
you
life?
a dream
Because
life?
again, at least if people think I'm delusional, at least you can read my fantasy book then, because it's going to be incredible. So, maybe this is a small plug. But yeah, it's
when was
been
the last
always...
time you were worried about something? Can you remember? Because I barely can't. Well,
I mean, sometimes I do get, God, I call it svindel. I don't know how you explain that. And I sometimes get these like surges and I'm like, oh my God, I quit my job. I moved away from New York. I don't have a set place to live. I'm kind of floating around and writing. I'm going to digital nomad for the next year. And obviously that's a big change.
Sure.
But it's more, yeah, I'm not worried. You know what I mean? Like, I was going backwards financially in New York as it was. So I'd rather like not work and live in Bali and write than to work and go financially backwards in New York.
Yes,
as it was.
and have new adventures. Yeah, the reason I was asking you is because I feel that very strongly, that I trust the process, process being life or whatever. I have a deep, serene trust in myself and that everything is good and it's going to be even better and everything is just working out. And if we can inspire anyone to feel the same feeling, that's kind of the main reason for this podcast.
And just small steps. It's not going to happen all at once, but just start seeing the small, beautiful things in life. Start kind of calming down a little bit. Like, try to like not stress. We'll talk more about chakras and like vibrations and lower vibrations and guilt and shame and fear being part of that in a later episode too. But just try to calm down a little bit. Try to realize it's not worth for you to be stressed over certain things, specifically things that you can't control, right? And if you come into that mindset, it's going to slowly... You have to remind yourself, and like meditation could be something for some people that helps. I want to get more into it because I see the value of it now, even though you hear people talk about it all the time. I've never been really good at meditating, but I'm slowly getting into it, and it's actually helped me quite a bit now. But there's so many different ways of you to for you to embrace it.
We're gonna break it down to you episode by episode, and we're going to interview people about it and different practices you can do. And we're also going to, I think, maybe give some hints and tips on our Instagram on how, if you want to take those small steps, which have been working for us.
Exactly. So if you want to follow our podcast Instagram, it's starseed.portal.podcast. You can also follow my newsletter, imaginemagic.substack.com, which is kind of talking about similar topics, but in a slightly less chaotic manner. So you can feel free to follow that. And if you want to follow me on my private Instagram, it's Antonia.Karyne.
And if you who listens have an awakening story of yourself, we would love to hear about it.
Ooh, yes, please. We are looking to interview some of our friends, but also if we have good awakening stories from our listeners, we would love to invite you to a podcast episode to showcase it's not only us that are seeing this. We are not the only ones who are experiencing this. And I promise that. I've spoken to a lot of people who've gone through similar things, at least gone through the dark portal. And it's really exciting things, you guys. So we're going to keep giving you some magical little snippets. And I'm
convinced that and if we can do it, anyone can do it if you want to.
100%.
Yeah.
No, for sure. We're like perfectly imperfect humans. You know what I mean? We are not like eating only fruit and vegetarian, or like we are perfectly imperfect. Like you can go through both the awakening and enlightenment being a regular person who has a job, who also has been a little bit anxious or has ADHD. Like there's an infinite amount of ways to go through this. And again, we'll break down the truth, love, and joy into its subcategories in a coming episode. But I think we need to wrap now.
Yeah, let's do it.
So thank you everyone for listening. We're so excited that you've given us this time, and we'll see you in the next episode.
See ya. Looking forward. Bye.
Bye.
Download completed. Transmission ending. Entering decompression chamber.